Hope everyone's having a beautiful day. In today's video, we're going to be making some ear cuffs, or at least attempting to. This project is heavily inspired by the lovely PaperStxrs, and apologies if I said the name wrong, who on her channel has a video making some beautiful ear cuffs. I saw her video and I was in awe by the beauty of them, and I wanted to try my hand at making a few. So make sure to go on and check her channel out if you want a more in-depth video. Over here on my channel though, we're going to be embracing the chaos and making lame jokes, so stick around for that. So I don't personally have my ears pierced, so I figured this would be a pretty good project to try and see if I could just spruce up my ear decorating game. I'll be using some wiring for the base shape of the cuff, pliers, beads, shrink plastic, and another thinner wire for wrapping the bigger shrink pieces, as well as this pattern that I drew up to follow for the shrink plastic flowers. For this pattern, I just did 2 different kinds of leaves and then 3 different kinds of flowers, and I did 2 different sizes for the flowers. Let's start with the pieces. Voila! One piece done! These little pieces are going to be the innards of the flower. That sounds disgusting, like intestines. We all know what I mean. The inner layer. Oh, you may be wondering why this ruler is on this table, because I did not use it at all on camera. I needed to measure the shrinky dinks. See how tiny they would get after shrinking the shrinky dinkies. Supposedly shrinky dinkies go down 1/3 of their size. It goes down to 1/3 of the original size. There we go. So, for example, this petal, this leaf, I keep saying petal, is currently approximately 1.5 inches in size. That means once shrinky dunked down, it would go down to 0.5 of an inch. Oops, I didn't remember. It would go down to 0.5 of an inch, or 1/2 inch in size. So, in turn, this petal would end up being this tiny. Yeah. There we go. All of my templates have been cut out. Next order of business is to trace them onto our shrinky dinky paper. Plastic. It's plastic. I have 2 sheets here. Voila! And then we're going to have another one here. Okay, so now we trace onto our shrinky dinky plastic. I drew out my pattern here of my thing. I decided on doing 2 of these, and then we just put leaves wherever fit. Don't mind the pencil marks on the edges. After this, I will use this excess for any excess leaves I want in the future, but this is what I have so far. And then for the second page, I will be putting my butterfly onto it. So, next order of business, chop chop. Wait. And that's that. There we go. Voila. The butterfly has been cut out. Now the question is, do I want this butterfly to be half wing? I might cut it in half actually, so it follows the ear. Yes. Right there. And we're going to chop that in half. There we go. So now I have 2 pieces. I can have 2 wings. Ta-da! Next, we'll move on to coloring in all the pieces, and I just went in with colored pencils since that's what I had, but I know markers and oil pastels also work, which I've discovered after doing some quick Googling. And voila, the finished shrinky dinky pieces. Apologies for the cut. My kitchen's a mess, so I was not going to record the shrinking process. But here are the finished pieces. As you can see, they all sit nicely within each other. I had curved them. I actually used an ice cream scoop. And I placed the still warm pieces, because you only have a few seconds. I placed them in there and I pressed in on them. And they each sit nicely. And then for the leaves, I had pressed them between two pieces of parchment paper and placed a porcelain bowl on it to flatten them. And you can see that these pieces actually picked up the parchment paper texture, because there is supposed to be one shiny side to them for the shrinky plastic, but it actually became matte on both ends, on both sides. But I will be covering all of these in resin to get the shine and the finish anyways. It's also to protect the coloring, to maintain it. So we will be doing the resin step. Another thing, I had also forgotten to poke holes in the middle of the flowers and the leaves for that matter. But that is fine. We will be using resin to attach them together, as well as adding any of the extra pieces. We will be using resin to solidify them. That is our solution to that. Mistakes are made, and that's part of the process. And here we have the finished wing. We got a nice little tie-dyed color going on there. And now we can move on to forming our wired structure. So, for my ear cuffs, I decided on two different wire thicknesses. This one is a 26 gauge, which would be for connecting the accessories or little dinkies. And this one is a, what is it again? 20 gauge, which would be our main structure for the cuff itself. The 20 gauge is much thicker than the 26 gauge, as you can see the difference. So we're going to start with this, and we will figure out the structure we want for the cuff itself. Join me on my journey of playing with wires for the first time. I have my assortment of pliers to work with. I got a long nose. I have a diagonal cutter and a, what is this one? Oh, this one's the needle nose, the long nose, and the diagonal cutter. This one's just to cut the piece of wire that I need off. And this one is more for malleability and forming. Let's start with our thicker 20 gauge wire. And here we have the finished structure skeleton for the earpiece. Earlobe would slot into here and here, and then here would be where the ear, or it hooks onto the ear, and then this would go in front of the earlobe, and these would go on the side of the ear. We have our finished frame here. So next we will be working on making our little shrinky dinks pieces shinier. I'm using UV resin so it will give me time to work with the resin before solidifying it. Normal resin is much harder to work with because there's a time constraint. It heats up as soon as you mix it. And in this case, I will be using this LED light, nail light. It is a nail light for nail art, but it works. So, materials, I have the UV light. It's very nice, pretty pink on the inside. Do not look at it. Warning right there. Number 2, I have my UV resin. Heed the warning. UV resin is still resin, so you do need proper ventilation when working with it, as well as it can stick. So I will be using gloves. And then aside from that, I have toothpicks to help me move the resin around on the pieces of course. I also have a piece of paper that I will be splitting in half. So having 2 pieces will allow me to have a assembly line of sorts. Let's begin with the leaves. They are the easier ones. They are flat. We're gonna put just a little dab of resin in the center. We are going to take this petal, place it how we'd like, take a toothpick, move it into position like that, and then we are going to cure, and hopefully it works. This is not tested, so we shall see what happens. Let's hope it works. Because if it doesn't, well, we're using hot glue. Place your bets. Comment down below if you think this works. It worked! Whoa, hey, look, it stayed. Wow, look at that. Wow, wow, wow. We are going to be placing little pearls in the center. Beads. They're beads. They're literally beads. We're calling them pearls, though, to make it fancier. So we are going to take this pink one. We're just going to pop it on right there. I'm going to try to place it sideways so you don't see that hole right there. Yeah, see, that's not flattering. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to put the resin on, stick it on like that, and ta-da. Okay, now we see the results. And with that, the next step, after we have finished our flowers and coating everything with resin, is to figure out how we would like to organize everything onto our frame. So most of the flowers will be sitting on this frame here, as well as here, this little piece here. So I didn't make too many, but now we gotta figure out how we want to position everything on here. This is where the difficult part comes in. We're gonna be putting together and assembling the little pieces, little shrinky dinky pieces, to one another to then attach to our main body. So I have, not this piece, I have our thin wire here. So I'm just gonna take my piece that I've just made and I'm gonna loop it. I want it sitting around where this loop here is. So I'm just gonna stick this right here and I'm gonna loop this around this piece here. Now we have this piece sitting with the wiring on it, as you can see. But to keep it even more secure, I'm going to put a little dot of resin where it meets the main frame, just to ensure that it stays. our piece is attached. Look how beautiful. Just like that. And it's secure. So now with these excess pieces, I'm gonna bend this edge back down so it doesn't cut me when I'm wearing it. And we are going to just snip off the excess pieces. Just like that. So next I'm gonna stick this purple flower here where the earlobe is, down near this loop. I'm gonna put it on this side here, so we have, this is where the earlobe actually is, and this, we're gonna stay excess. And I'm gonna take a petal, and I'm going to stick it right here on this edge right here as decoration. And with that, we have our piece. It is now on there properly. I'm gonna try it on just to make sure it fits my ear the way that it is supposed to, but it is properly stuck on there, as you can see. Okay, and now you can see it's fully cured. We have the piece, and these are gonna be our main pieces, which are now all settled. I will likely not be using this because it's kind of large. Unfortunately, I can make another ear cuff and use this on it instead and use it as a main centerpiece, which I might do, and use it as an earring piece maybe. But for now, this is going to be the cuff. So, next up we'll actually be making the dangling pieces that will be hanging from this loop here, we see here, and from the bottom. So we get some nice accessories coming off. First things first, I'm going to assemble the chain using these small loops here. I'm going to loop them together and we get a little chain. Okay, now with this chain, I'm going to add my base piece at the bottom of the chain. So for that, I'm going to use these pearls that I have. I have a variety, but given the color scheme I'm going with, I will be using one purple and one blue. I'll be using this one and this one. To do that, I'm going to take this wire here. It has an end stop there. So I'm gonna take my I'm gonna take one smaller purple, smaller blue bead, stick it at the bottom, and then put in the purple, just like that. Looking at my strip, I borrowed this from my mother, my mom-ther. I will be using, let's see, which do I prefer? My mom-ther loves making bracelets. That's her hobby. We're doing that, like that. Or do I want it different? Okay, I'm gonna do two smaller beads. I did a little blue teal one, bottom, then the breakup piece, it's diamond piece, it's fake diamond, faux diamond, and a little purple bead on top. I'm going to then take my pliers, bend it at the top, so now we get a loop at the top, and then I snip the excess off. then we will take this little loop and loop it on to this loop here. We'll take the chain we just made and hook this to it, and then proceed to close it up. And then here we have our little chain, just like that. And then with that, we're gonna take a slightly larger loop than the ones we made the chain out of. And this loop is gonna be what we use to attach to the ear cuff itself. So I open it, loop the chain into it, whoop, and then we loop this back loop on. And then we close it up, just like that. Here we have the chain coming off. And I'm just gonna go ahead and make one more. There we have our two dangles. Really cute. Yes, no. Give me your honest opinions. I can take it. And then final step, now that those are on. Final steps, I'm going to take the the thin wire from before. Just cut a little bit off, like that. I'm gonna take this and I'm going to loop some beads onto here that we're going to line across the top edge here. So here I added the 3 beads at the top, the blue, pink, and the ivory colored ones, which I looped around using the wire at the top here. And then I added the 2 down at the bottom, which I looped in at the bottom, but I also used some resin to secure it because that bottom piece was a little iffy. But here we have the finished piece. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this struggle bus of a tutorial. Please like and subscribe if you wanna, and as always, stay groovy.